Just set up my recorder. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent. So I'll get started with the basics. Tell me more about your current tour.
Well, let's see. Normally we play on the road roughly from April to say mid-October, and it's a variety of runs. Sometimes it's a Texas base, sometimes it's northern mid-state and this and that. So they're more on the regional side of things, and festivals in the summer, and everything from one-night shows to festivals can be 3 to 5 days sometimes, and it's just a big variety of all kinds of things in terms of the touring.
Makes sense. Sounds like you're definitely keeping busy.
Yeah, we definitely are. Definitely.
Okay, so you've got a pretty extensive catalog of music. How do you decide what you're going to play at a show each night?
I play it by ear. I don't have a set list, and I just kind of get out in front of the people and figure it out right in front of them. Sometimes folks will call out songs. Other times there's requests that were written down, and so I'm looking at that a bit. And then I just kind of flow around with it. I don't have much of a plan, and it tends to work out about that. I don't have a pre-planned anything, and I just get out there and figure it out right in front of the people. And I kind of figured that it's an honest way to do it, and I don't have a prescribed anything going on other than to be in the moment of that performance. And so therefore every performance is different from the last one. And so the audience knows to look for that. And then I don't get so tired or predictable on my part. It keeps me interested as well. But it also seems like a fresh and honest performance that's kind of unique to that very night.
Excellent. It definitely makes each one very special.
Yeah, exactly. And totally different than the night before, the next night, and all that.
I mean, it definitely makes sense for helping to keep it interesting. It sounds like you play a lot. It'd be rough to do the exact same set, every week.
It drives me crazy. I may as well just work at a factory. You know what I mean? It's just that, to me, this is more than just, repeating myself over and over and over. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That's too static for me.
That makes sense. It sounds like touring is a big part of your life musically, and that each show is so unique. What is your favorite part about playing the live shows? What do you look forward to each night?
Well, it's the actual shows themselves. Everything else surrounding it, the driving there, the driving away, or considering what traffic's going to be like if it's at a big city. Like today, we're in Atlanta area, and I knew to get here, easily 3 hours before we were even supposed to, because if I didn't, then I'd be here on Friday. Friday traffic of a major city. Either leaving the city or going into the city or starting their weekend. And so I make decisions like that. And those are just put your head down and get to the other side. So the best part of the night always is the show itself. It's where music and people and, audience and here we go is what's going on. All the other stuff is really kind of a necessary but pretty silly part of this work is the crazy amount of driving and hours and sometimes leaving a city after a show so you don't have to face the next morning's traffic, and all of those kind of logistics come in. But the best part is always the music.
Yeah, most acts I talk to, they often bring up the COVID years because that was such a strange time for musicians, and I think a lot of them are like, I just couldn't wait to be in front of crowds again. I didn't miss the traveling, but I missed the crowds. Yeah, and miss that the music comes forward as opposed to just being kind of held up in myself or in other folks. So, that's why there was such a boom of people doing Facebook Lives. And, part of it was, to try to get any version of money when your live money was just gone. So streaming live shows and all that, that's why I think people went out started standing in front of an iPhone, for those, the lockdown times, for sure. I imagine it's kind of got to be a little bit different when you're doing kind of more intimate, just you tours versus when you are kind of on the road with really big acts like Robert Plant and the Zac Brown Band. Is there kind of a lot of fun in very different kinds of tours that you take part in?
Yeah, with those tours, like for example, what I'm doing right now, which is the solo stuff, it's me and my wife and our dog, our Australian Shepherd. Literally, that's how we drive around. Sometimes, like when we play Kent, we're going to be in our truck camper. So we're literally camping unless there's hotels, involved. Then we stay in a hotel, of course. But when they're not, or we're between shows or days off, we're camping as if we were, quote, on vacation, staying at state parks or national park this and that. But in those tours like you speak of there, those things are so organized. You just, get yourself on a bus and everything's taken care of. And this is the polar opposite where nothing's taken care of and we're the ones, doing everything from the load-ins to the load-outs to the logistics of hotels and traffics and all that, where on those tours you just sit back and, keep yourself interested as you drive, those hours or the flights or the whatever. So they're kind of, flip side coins of the same thing, which is playing music. But one, with the Zac Brown, there were about 100 of us, literally. The crew was 100. Probably for Robert, it was like 25 people. Well, here it's 3. If you count Miller as 1, the dog. Otherwise, it's 2 people going around. So it almost couldn't be more different, but they're both playing music. But this solo thing, is just me and my wife and our dog, and we make it real simple in that way.
Yeah, I imagine, besides having to probably worry more about logistics than when you're on the bigger tours, it's got to be really nice to kind of experience both of those as a musician, these more intimate ones and the big ones.
That's correct. I kind of, if I were to look at my career, I've vacillated between, it's mostly been solo-y stuff or bands that I was in, but also then it's a break of those bigger tours sometimes to the smaller tours like what I'm doing now or what I'll do at Kent. And I do like the mix. It's the same with the set. The reason I don't do the same set every night, I don't want to. That's not appealing to me at all. And always traveling exactly the same would also get to the same point. So sometimes we're in our truck camper, sometimes we're in a van, sometimes it's flights and rental cars. And I like the variety both of music but also of scenes for all that stuff.
It's got to be kind of nice to be able to occasionally, I guess, camp if you enjoy camping.
Yeah, absolutely. We do that a fair amount in terms of sometimes we're on a street in a big city, just hanging out, staying in that kind of atmosphere. Other times we're at State Park on Lake Michigan. We've done those things. We've done national parks. We've done, I think everything I can think of, Walmart parking lots and as far as that camping stuff. So yeah, it's a big variety of things, and each town is different. So one town will have great possibilities for camping, and others will be like impossible. So you drive an hour or so after a gig and get into a state park at midnight. It's all of that. Every day is completely different.
Well, that sounds very fun, at least to me. I like camping, so.
Yeah, cool.
All right. So I want to go backwards a little bit. I kept reading that your dad was a very big part of your start of your love of music.
Sure.
What else kind of drove you to want to make music, and were there any artists you were particularly inspired by?
Yeah, a lot of artists inspired me, and having, a built-in home that had music going on. And my dad was not a professional musician or songwriter in the means of, that's how he made his money to raise a family. That is not what happened. He was a steel mill worker. We were in the fence construction business. So to me, there were two things I could do, either the fence construction as far as what we had grown up doing, and the other thing was playing music. And I knew really early on, which one suited me, that the music was basically in me, both as a player and a singer and arranger, writer, and all that stuff was present even when I was a kid. So it always seemed pretty clear that that's what I was going to do. And in fact, that's all I have ever done. I've never really had any other kind of job at all, because music was always what I have done. In terms of folks that I listened to, it ran the gamut from country music that I was raised in, because that's just all that was going to be on the radio in the truck with my dad was country music. Started branching out into more pop and rock, at least as a listener. Church music was part of that deal when I was a kid. Then I branched into jazz fusion, and singer-songwriter stuff was what really caught my attention and held it, ongoing because of the songs, the poetry, so to speak, the stories, and the diversity, because songwriters range from Stevie Wonder's a songwriter, but so is Johnny Cash, and so is Seal, and on and on. So the songwriter portion of it was this big, broad place that I liked, again, that diversity, that not the sameness. So I don't write the same song over and over, even the same style. So, I loved all kinds of music and still love all kinds of music. The more diverse, the better for me.
It's like hearing when folks are also finding newer inspirations as well, even if it's a newer, older act.
Yeah.
I was also seeing that a lot of acts have covered your music. How does it feel when that happens? Is it kind of strange to hear another version of something that maybe sounded quite different than before?
Yeah, it is different, and I'm always listening for those differences. And I don't feel in any way, shape, or form that anyone who cut my song should sound or even do the same arrangement. As a matter of fact, I would hope that they find their own way. I mean, they have a choice of, I guess, copying what I did in terms of arrangement or that kind of style of thing, or the general character approach. I always look forward to, can they make it their own? That's a lot more interesting to me than if they, aped what I did. I mean, I already did what I did, so I kind of know how that goes. I'd be interested to see what other people do, with the characters and the arrangements and stuff like that. Some of my greatest surprises has been where I wrote a song, let's say, from a male point of view, and then to hear, a female singing it. That as simple as switch as that is, sometimes is huge and profound for me, because somewhere in my head it was welded as I just saw the characters as male or female or this or that. But sometimes the gender switch is huge for me. That was like, wow, I never saw that coming, and it really works, For example, when the Chicks or the Dixie Chicks have done my songs, every single time it's been this refreshing, like, wow, just the change of character, just simply from the male writing that I thought it was to hearing the female declaration was wonderful. I've loved to hear those changes. I'm again, they're the same thing. I'm looking for diversity, not repeatability. And so that's been some of my biggest thrills, is when, I've learned something from somebody doing something of mine. That's like a great situation.
Yeah, I do kind of love how much music can inspire other musicians, including, your own music being used in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also very much appreciate that you made a Hank Williams album. How on earth do you kind of decide what songs you're going to go for with that?
Well, number one, I knew not to do the most popular Hank songs. I mean, that there's no new territory there. I grew up on Hank Williams music because my dad was a Hank freak, and so I knew Hank's entire catalog by the age of 12 or 8 or something, because it was just the background of our upbringing. My dad was into Hank Williams, even tried to sing like Hank, and of course tried to write like Hank and all that stuff. But he was also a Johnny Cash love, and so when Hank died in the early 50s, my dad took up as a fan to Johnny Cash. So I grew up with both of those catalogs, and so I knew the less traveled roads of the Hank Williams songs. And so one thing I knew I didn't want to do was just a bunch of Hank things that we've all heard, a million times. So, and I knew what those would be. And largely what helped shape that choosing of songs with Hank was I knew it was going to be a blues-tinged album, or a treatment of Hank songs, because I always thought Hank was definitely blues. He's got a lot of titles with the word blues sitting right in there, but also as a form and as and as a down-to-earth, guttural kind of language expression, that the blues are sitting right there. And so I wanted to bring my version of blues toward the Hank song. So between not wanting to do the most, obvious Hank songs and bringing a blues, my version of blues tinge to Hank, those two things is all I really had to accomplish in terms of picking which songs. It's the ones that stood up to a more blues treatment, meaning B3 organ, meaning me on the electric, and roots drums, and sort of on the funkified side of drums instead of a straight, reed. So those were the things I was looking for, and found, found how to do that and which songs in very short time, because I had that template that I was looking for.
I think that's a really wise way to handle somebody so big.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be fine to do Hank, the obvious Hank songs and stuff, I suppose, but I wanted to bring out, the songs less traveled, and in a treatment less traveled for Hank too, that I could hang on to. So that sort of told me which direction to go for it.
Are there any other artists you could think of that you would want to do that kind of approach with?
Well, I could easily do Johnny Cash, and I've included Cash songs on several of my records. I could easily do a Cash thing. I could do a Haggard. I could do a Gordon Lightfoot thing. I could do a Joni Mitchell. I could do a whole bunch of that stuff, because to me, interpreting songs that already exist is also, something that really interests me. Like, it doesn't interest me to do the song the way that we all heard it and still hear it. That's just like all that's gained by that is that I did that song. But if you did it exactly like so-and-so did it, I don't know what the point is, other than saying, hey, I like this group. For example, last night I was playing in Macon, Georgia, and Macon is where the Allman Brothers were based. And Duane Allman, I got to play Duane Allman's gold top Les Paul, the museum, the Allman Brothers Band Museum, brought me Duane's guitar. And so I thought, well, geez, what can I do that's Duane-centric a little bit? And, of course, I did Midnight Rider of the Allmans, but then I also chose a song that Duane played on for Wilson Pickett, which was Born to Be Wild, which is a Steppenwolf song, but Duane played on a Wilson Pickett tune, and so I decided to do Born to Be Wild last night on Duane's guitar. And those kinds of things interest me, that kind of thing, So Duane played on the session, and here's Duane's guitar, and of course I'm not Steppenwolf, and I'm sort of doing it in my own way, but with all those, the Duane guitar was central to that situation. I may never do Born to Be Wild ever, and I've never done it prior to that. So those are those examples of how every night is different. There's never been another night where someone brought me Duane Allman's guitar. So that night is going to be totally different than tonight, where I don't have Duane's guitar. So all those things go in to inform me of how the night's going to be, but also how I'll treat a cover like Born to Be Wild, and the folks sing along at the obvious part, Born to Be Wild and all that stuff. So those are an example of things that I do to keep it fresh, but also keep it relatable and, I know there's another word, relevant. That's the word. To try to keep it relevant and relevant to that evening, because I figure if an audience is coming out, I could do the same thing over and over. I couldn't, but that doesn't occur to me. What occurs to me is, let's make this night in Kent 100% its own night. Like, for example, the last time I played Kent, the area was having an anniversary. It might have been 50th anniversary of the river catching on fire somewhere downriver or something like that, or upriver. And there was truly a celebration going on in Kent about that, and of course how the story is how they cleaned it up, and now it's a really beautiful river that passes through the town and all that. So I did Smoke on the Water, just as fun, you know what I mean? And I didn't do it the night before, the night after, but the night of, having some fun with the Kent people about that incident of 50 years ago, if that's if that's what it was. You see what I mean? Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. My antenna's up, looking for what makes this night in Kent, it's like the only time that this is going to happen. And I think that the audience knows that. They pick up on it, and if anyone's been to my show more than once, they know it like right away. But I think it's one of those perceptible things that like the audience literally is thinking like, that guy doesn't know what's coming next, does he? And it's like really clear that I don't, but it's not exactly a problem. And the audience is kind of there with me, and we just kind of float through an evening of music that is its own unique evening. And that's kind of just how I fly with this stuff. That's sort of what I do.
I think that's very smart. And I talk to a lot of musicians who have been touring for a long time and tour most of the year. And I think a lot of them, like, cities and dates start to kind of blur together because nights are very similar.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of really wise to have, like, this is a very specific thing I did at this specific show, and it's more impactful for you and the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, and believe me, it gets blurry anyway, even with me making the nights differently. Not necessarily the places I play or the audience or the sound systems or this or that, but just the sort of, oh my God, drive anywhere from 4 to 8 hours as an average per day. Tonight you don't have a hotel. Tonight you're in a camper, or on and on and on. Tonight you didn't have time for dinner. And after the show, there's nothing open and all that stuff. It is a blur. It just has to be. And so the part that isn't so repeatable or just mind-numbing is the music itself, which is why I strive for each evening being its own situation. And that excites me. That makes me know that I'm in the moment, as opposed to here I am phoning in what I did last night and what I'll do tomorrow night. That just has no interest to me whatsoever. Like, at all, like not even close.
So I do have to close on this very basic question that you've kind of touched on a little bit, but what should folks expect for your return to the Kent stage?
Yeah, well, let's see. Well, just kind of the same kind of stuff that we've talked about. Let's see. I'll probably have an electric with me, and I've been loving playing electric in the solo show. So it's not all just acoustic guitar, Sometimes the stages will have a piano. I can't remember if Kent had a piano or not. I think they do. So then we'll drag that out on stage, and then I'll play piano. So I look for that variety too, so that even every song is not the same. Oh, there he is playing acoustic guitar and singing. Wow, And then another song, and then an hour and a half of this. I like to break it up, even instrumentally and sonic wise too. So a big variety, I think, is what we'll run across for another night at Kent. And right after that, we go up to Canada for a few days of Canadian theater, like Shakespeare and stuff like that. So a couple days after the Kent show, I'll be sitting in Stratford, Ontario at the as an audience member. So I get to recharge and not be on stage. I get to see others on stage. And so there's some of that coming up too around that Kent time. So yeah, it's kind of unknown what will be going on at Kent, but those general elements are probably going to show up again. I probably won't do Smoke on the Water because the celebration of 50 years has come and gone. But there might be something in the news that day that I start tells me a little bit about what the night will be. Folks request this, that, and the other. And I don't know exactly, but it'll be something in that general vein of stuff. Basically me out there fighting for my life with guitars and a piano.
There you go. That's a pretty good promise.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope we provide something interesting day of, but I appreciate you talking with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you for yours. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.